Hello there, Starscream back for a review. Now, not a review you're used to seeing. I don't know why it looks over there. At my parents' house at the moment, it suddenly called to mind that I'd left a very old computer there. And it gave me a little bit of inspiration. Now, judging by if you've seen the title, there's no prizes for guessing what it's going to be, so I'll just show it to you. And this is it. Now, this is the 128K Sinclair Spectrum. This was the later one after the 48K Plus one which come out, which I've got as well. And that's not the rubber key one, there's one even older. Now, the thing you've got to remember with the Sinclair Spectrum is they were tape drives, okay, to load the games. Now, this has got a built-in tape deck, which is kind of nice, isn't it? Where, comparatively speaking with the old one, you had to plug the tape machine into it, and that led to all manner of problems. Especially if the tape machine you got wasn't quite compatible. You had to set the volume up. If it had the tone, you had to set the tone up. You had to make sure the cables were in right. And I know I'm trying to make it sound worse than it is, but it was a nightmare. There was no guarantee that that computer would load up. And as you probably know, the loading times of these systems is somewhat annoying. Now, as you can see the size of this thing, it's like the Monolith, isn't it, out of 2010. It's huge. It could be a keyboard. Now, if I take it back, it's still flipping huge. It's not particularly light. I mean, they've got a few ports for joysticks on it. I suppose this was the flash one. The old one that I had, still got, you have to have an interface before you can plug the joystick into it. Now, that was prone to all manner of problems as well. But I'm going to give you a bit of a background history on the Sinclair Spectrum and how it affected the UK market. Now, I don't know if you had these in the States, so I'm not quite sure. What Sinclair Spectrum done is he made home computing affordable. Now, granted, this thing had the speed and performance of a calculator. There's no doubt about it. They weren't great machines. But they made it affordable gaming for the average person. You didn't have to be the king or queen of some small island, i.e. this one, to purchase a computer. And you may wonder why this has all brought this all to mind. Transformers, what's got to do with that? Well, they happened to release a Transformers game on the Spectrum, Ocean's Transformer game. Well, that was the name of the company. Now, this game is, yet again, not a brilliant game. And as with old retro consoles, you had to use your imagination. Because what you're essentially staring at is a brick coloured red and a blick. That's a drink, something like that. That's Bitbrick, isn't it? Oh, can't be bothered. Yeah, so what you essentially got is got one coloured brick fighting another brick. I wish it was blobs. Yeah, blobs works better. One blob attacking another blob when you use your imagination in between. But they did have a Transformer game. This came out in '85, so it was pre-movie even. And I remember playing this as a kid. And when I was playing this as a kid, my parents couldn't afford a colour TV, so I was playing it in black and white. So it's somewhat of a luxury to have it in colour. Right, now what I'm going to do, I'll give you a rundown of history of the bit and consoles that are to my best recollection. And then I'm going to show you this game in action. And this is not going to be an emulated version. Oh no, I'm going to use that little beast down there for it. So hold on, hang about, and I promise I won't make you watch all of the loading time, because it might take days. So, see where we end up next.
Right, now, we all know consoles, don't we? Well, as we do now. I mean, what have we got now? We've got a relative newcomer to the market, which is Microsoft's Xbox and later 360, which is holding alright, doing alright for itself. And we have Nintendo. Now, they've been going for years, so don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Nintendo. But their market they've aimed for has always been a slightly childish, lots of friends round, play games sort of thing, and that's the market it's aimed for, and it's done very well. Sony in the last 4 or 5 years has completely dominated it. Well, at the start of the PlayStation 1, now the PlayStation 2, and obviously with the introduction of the PlayStation 3, it's hopefully going from strength to strength. It's a very good computer system. And please let us not forget Sega, who now I'm afraid are just relegated to producing software in games. Well, they had some really good consoles in the past. I like the Dreamcast, and we can't forget how popular the Mega Drive was in the early 90s. Right, now I'm going to go back now to, I think, the initial start of it. Now, we're all getting into consoles from, well, the world was from the late 70s onwards. And we were granted with some pretty appalling trash at the time. Now, Sir Clive Sinclair, and I will point out he was knighted for his services to the British public, he wanted to make home computing possible. Now, he initially started off with a computer that you primarily put together yourself from software and stuff you bought from shops. Now, that's a nice idea, but he thought he'd take it a step further and start making an actual computer system, all integral. I mean, you could do basic programming on this and make it into a little keyboard that makes beeps and blob sounds. So that was the initial start of what was yet to later be called the Spectrum. And we had varying formats of the Spectrum. We had the earlier rubber key version, which you see not particularly great. We had the later ZX Spectrum, which I had, and then we had the 128K, and then the 128K Plus. They had built-in tape machines, and these were coming to the end of the Spectrum Sinclair. They were taken over by various companies as it went into, I think it was liquidation of some kind. And I think the main cause and reason for that is the C5, his attempt at a relatively economical form of transportation. It's a very unstable, dodgy looking bike, and I think that's all we can say about that. But as we said, he's made it affordable. This is how I started off, so I thought I'd share that with you. Now we'll get on to the game and the culprit at hand, and I'll just say goodbye to Mr. Clive Sinclair there, and let's see what the game actually is like.